Alaska is the biggest state in the country, the most mysterious and arguably the most beautiful. There's so much left to explore, and even the accessible parts are unknown to many. To even get to most of Southeast Alaska, you have to fly in or take a boat. For the Inside Passage, I decided to take a cruise, which has its ups and downs. Cruise ship lines and tour companies have banded together, primarily to try to cash in on a few hotspots, not necessarily to provide authentic Alaskan adventures. For example, people poured onto the main trail to Mendenhall Glacier, half an hour from Juneau. I'm glad I took the path less taken. I composed a shot set back from the end of this path by a few hundred feet. It was a more unique experience. The visitor center wasn't as pleasant. Grown men and women had their phones ringing and dinging during the glacier film. I did get to see 3 black bears beside the trail, a mother and 2 cubs. Alaska's state capital, Juneau, itself was an alright town. At only 30,000, it's smaller than Binghamton. I spotted the nondescript state capitol and took a half-off tour of the Alaska State Museum, which was pretty small, but had some cool artifacts. Dinner was a bit of a bear to get. I did not even get served at the Alaska Hotel. Another customer assumed that it was because I looked like I was 12. I felt a bit like Julia Roberts in Pretty Woman. Big mistake. Huge! I went to a nearby Mexican joint where I got good food and very good service. There are so-called tourist experiences that aren't as bad. I took a motor coach ride from Skagway up to Carcross in Canada's Yukon Territory and saw some simply beautiful mountains, glaciers, and lakes. Then I took the scenic railway back to Skagway. It's arguably the most scenic railroad in the country, not including cross-country railroads. I really enjoyed the tour guides driving the motor coaches to Mendenhall and Carcross. Guys in their 20s with a great attitude, great stories, and a great sense of humor. However, the narrator for the train ride down to Skagway was a bit shrill. I would have liked the motor coach to stop more often for photos to Carcross, but overall, I really enjoyed that excursion. I expected a great excursion, and I got one. At the south end of the Inside Passage, Alaska's first city, Ketchikan, had lots of shops and great salmon, chum, sockeye, king, silver, and pink. I picked up a jar of smoked sockeye from one of Ketchikan's seaplane tour companies. I got to fly over and into the Misty Fjords National Monument. With Ketchikan being the rainiest town in the U.S. at 13 feet a year, I was worried that the flight would be canceled. But we flew on with me in the seat, right in front of the controls. We made a quick landing beside a waterfall before heading back toward the seaplane dock. The customer service is excellent. You get to see United Nations of sorts. There are staff members from the Philippines, India, Central and South America, Eastern Europe, South Africa, etc. They generally seem to want to be there and keep passengers happy. Still, being on a cruise ship with thousands of old people who take pictures of stupid things, and the ship trying to sell me things I don't need, gets old. I had a tough time finding a place to sit for the buffet, and God forbid I got to exercise my Second Amendment right to fart in an elevator. The choppiness of open waters on day 2 made me so nauseous, I pretty much lost my entire appetite and wanted to get the heck off the ship. But in the Inside Passage, the ride was much smoother. There are a lot of things to do on the ship, but some of them didn't really interest me or weren't geared toward people in my demographic. The ship sends advertisements for jewelry to each stateroom every day, which is logical due to its money-making potential, but as I hinted, those pitches really get old for a single man in his 20s. Princess does offer movies under the stars, which I imagine works much better in tropical climates when it's dark outside. In the cold breeze of Alaska before sunset, it doesn't translate as well. However, you can watch a good number of titles on demand on your stateroom's TV. Every now and then, you do come across people you really like and hope to see again later in the trip. For the first night's dinner, I was randomly seated with 2 couples, one elderly, the Snowdens, and one young. Mr. Snowden actually looked a lot like my maternal grandfather, and Mrs. Snowden matched him wit for wit. She said she would help me find a chick. I offered to give them my room number if they had any information. Mr. Snowden said, "John is my type of guy. He doesn't fuss." The educational presentations on Princess have been excellent. It was really cool meeting the first female to win the Iditarod, Libby Riddles, and one of her many sled pups. In addition, naturalist and author Michael Modulewski was not only an informative presenter, but inspirational. He got me looking at things with this sort of mystical vibe. He told his story of leaving the comfort and convenience of Cleveland and surviving conditions on a remote Alaskan island. Harsh, unpredictable, wild. At the same time, he quickly promoted Princess's mostly mild excursions. The elderly are the #1 demographic on cruises, and as a result, mild is much better than wild. But make no mistake, Michael lives for the wild and the extraordinary. He told me he's lobbying for Princess to offer free cruises to teachers and students, exposing economically disadvantaged children to a whole new world. Knowing that I wouldn't want to elbow wrestle other passengers for good photos of that newer world out on one of the decks, I booked this balcony stateroom for unobstructed views. Sometimes you will see more things on the port side or the starboard side. However, the ship flipped in Glacier Bay for both sides to see the magnificent but sadly receding rivers of ice. There are flocks of seagulls in Glacier Bay, and occasionally you can see mountain goats and humpback whales. I did get a chance to see the glacier calving into an iceberg right before my eyes. Unfortunately, my timing wasn't good enough to capture on film, but I did capture a few humpback whales barely breaching the surface of the water. Southeast Alaska is, as they say, just the tip of the iceberg. It is the last frontier. I would love to have the opportunity to explore the rest of the state. For many people, Alaska is a once-in-a-lifetime experience. If you have a chance to go, take it, make the most of it. There isn't a place in the United States quite like it.